Saying yes to the wrong things can keep you from managing the right things. Saying yes to the wrong things can keep you from managing the right things. And so you want to ask yourself, does this opportunity bring me closer to God's vision for my life? Hello and welcome back to the Raven Nole Show. I'm your host, Raven C. Nole. And today we're diving into a conversation that I know will speak directly to so many of you. Lately on the podcast, we've been focusing on different things like calling and stepping into your purpose and the kingdom mandate of a woman. And so if you've been catching up or tuning in to the podcast episodes, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I have a question for you. Have you ever felt like God was calling you to more, but instead of that excitement that you feel like you should feel about stepping into your purpose and going forward in who God says that you are, you start to feel overwhelmed? Maybe it's a new opportunity, a bigger dream, or just a shift in your season of life. And instead of feeling like you're prepared and you're ready, you start to wonder, how am I supposed to handle all of this? Especially as a multifaceted woman who's already wearing so many hats. In today's episode, we're diving into exactly that: how to manage the more God is calling you to without burnout, overwhelm, or fear. Because the truth is, if God called you to it, He's also going to give you the grace to manage it. Listen, I'm not saying it from a place that I don't know it to be true. I absolutely believe that if God called you to it, He is going to give you the grace to manage it. So let's talk about it. So one of the ways that you can ensure that you are managing correctly this season of your life, because I totally understand that it can be a lot. What you want to do is you want to start with a faith-led action plan. I'm all about strategy. I'm all about planning. I'm all about making sure all my ducks are in a row. And so it's very important that you just don't step out blindly, right? You want to have an action plan in place, because overwhelm often comes when we focus on the big picture without breaking it down into steps, right? So God could tell you, I'm sending you here. I want you to start this. I want you to start that. This is the season that you're entering into. And so you see the big vision. And that big vision can absolutely be overwhelming. And so it's important that once you do get that clarity from the Lord, once you do get that green light to go forward from God, that you then for yourself break that down into manageable steps, okay? So instead of just trying to figure everything out at once, focus on smaller steps, okay? Smaller practical actions that can actually move you forward. And this is what's going to help with that overwhelm. So how do you actually do this? Very practically, very simply, okay? You got to ask yourself the question, what's one simple step I can take today? Bam. What is one simple step I can take today? I talk about this all the time with clients that I work with and my advisory clients. They're always asking me, hey, I have this vision. I know that God wants me to move forward in my business. I know that I should be starting this, but I have so much that has to get done. And so my first question to them is, what's one simple step that you can actually take today? If you feel like you're called to start a business, your step may look like writing down the idea, right? What the business name will be or how you will serve individuals, right? That could be your first step. If you're supposed to lead a ministry or start a ministry, maybe your first step is reaching out to someone like a mentor or a spiritual leader to give you guidance on how to actually launch this ministry or start this ministry. So I want you to write down your next 3 steps, okay? Take some time to just think about, this is the vision that God has given me. This is how I should be moving forward. I know that this is a season, so let me write down the first 3 things that I should do to actually make progress in this area. Again, this is going to help you have clarity and actually make movement forward. Now, another thing that you can do, which I think is extremely important, is align your schedule with your calling, right? If you know that this is a season that God is calling you into, then your schedule has to also reflect that. Your schedule, your calendar should be reflecting your priorities. And so does it reflect what God is calling you into? Have you made space in your calendar for what the Lord is calling you to do? Now, this could look like a time audit, right? Writing down how much time you're spending per week on things that are just stealing your time, right? Looking at your schedule and saying, okay, what can I realistically get rid of in my schedule in order for me to actually walk this thing out, in order for me to actually move forward in what God is calling me to do and what God is telling me to do in this season. So a time audit is very important because then you'll realize, man, I'm spending time on so many different things that shouldn't have my time. Now, another thing that I think is really good is that you can implement the 3D method. Okay. Now, this is something that I work with my clients with as well. And what you're doing with this is that you're looking at your tasks and you're categorizing them. Okay. You're saying, okay, should I do this? Should I delegate it or should I drop it? Okay. Very simple to help you really understand what to do with your time and how you can alleviate some of your time so you can put your focus toward whatever this new responsibility God is giving you. Okay. So do it. Okay. If you're like, this is when you're implementing the 3D method and you're like, okay, should I do it? Right. You have to weigh that. Things that align with your calling, you want to go forward with. Now, things that someone else can handle to kind of take some things off of your plate, you can delegate that, right? That can look like an assistant, that can look like a mentee, someone that may be supporting you, whatever that looks like, someone you can hire on to help support you, whatever you need to delegate, I'm telling you, give that away. And then lastly is drop it. What are distractions and obligations that just don't serve you in this season of your life? Okay. You want to think about those things when it comes to you walking in your new season. And again, when you already have so much on your plate as a multifaceted woman, you want to ensure that you don't overwhelm yourself by taking on so much when you can actually delegate it or you can drop it. Now, I think also one of the things we don't always recognize or realize is that we also have to manage this mental load. Okay. So when you are venturing into a new space and you're walking in a new season of life, you're adding things to your plate because I'm a big believer that things don't get any less busy, right? God is always, as a woman who has to juggle many things in my life, God is constantly adding things to my plate. I'm walking more into a refined version of myself. I'm getting more clear on what my purpose is. I'm getting more confident in what my purpose is. And so that looks like me saying yes to more things. That looks like more responsibility, but of course, not overwhelming myself by just giving a yes to everything. But it comes with a mental load, and you probably totally understand what I mean by this is that when you are managing a lot, home, family, children, spouse, careers, business, extended family, self-care, things that you want to do, hobbies, all kind of stuff. There's a lot to juggle. And so the weight of more, like I said, it's just not physical. It's also mental. And so the enemy loves to fill our minds with so many different things. And so when you are venturing into something new, doubt, fear, overthinking, all of that can start to get triggered and it can make you feel stuck. And so what I want to help you implement is two things. Number one, I want you to identify the lie. Okay. So when you start to feel overwhelmed mentally and so many things are happening and you're like, okay, this is a lot, right? I'm just feeling very stressed by everything happening in my life right now. I want you to identify the lie. What's the biggest limiting belief you're carrying right now? Is it the lie that you can't handle it? Is it the lie that this isn't the right season? What is the lie? Is it the lie that you're going to fail? Whatever that is, I want you to think about what is the biggest limiting belief that you have right now that you're carrying. And then I want you to replace it with the truth. Find a Bible verse that contradicts that lie. Find a Bible verse that aligns with what God told you to do in this season. Find a Bible verse that absolutely trumps whatever it is that you are thinking or believing and that's not true. Okay. Now, I would also say very important when it comes to managing your time, managing a season where you are going into more, you're venturing into more, and just being able to manage all the different hats that you wear and what God has called you to do. What you also want to think about is healthy boundaries, okay? Healthy boundaries are important. And one of the things you have to live by as a multifaceted woman is that you have to have boundaries in place. Boundaries will save you, okay? Because not every opportunity in this season of your life aligns with the assignment of this season, okay? And so saying yes to the wrong things can keep you from managing the right things. Saying yes to the wrong things can keep you from managing the right things. And so you want to ask yourself, does this opportunity bring me closer to God's vision for my life? And if it does not, that means I have to give it a no. Okay. That means I have to learn to say no more in this season because I'm focused on what God has told me to do. I'm focused on how I'm moving forward. I'm focused on what God has opened up to me and the details and the instructions and all the things that He has told me to move forward and do. And so not every good thing is a God thing. And so you want to make sure you create those boundaries for yourself so that you can protect your time, you can protect your energy, and you can protect your focus. Now, lastly, I would say, in order to avoid burnout, you have to also trust God's timing, okay? You have to know that this is where God is sending you, or this is where God told you to go, all right? But you don't have to have everything figured out at once, okay? I said this earlier because growth is a process. And sometimes when God says, okay, He gives us that green light, you give God a yes, you're moving forward, you're like, okay, this is what I know I'm supposed to be doing. You're automatically ready to just figure it all out, get it all done, make it all happen. And that can lead to a lot of overwhelm. But I want you to shift your mindset and understanding that even though you've given God a yes for the season, it still takes time. And there's still a process to your yes. Okay. And so I want you to shift from feeling that perfectionism rise and you have to have everything perfectly figured out to just stepping into progress. Okay. Give yourself permission to grow into this season. Give yourself permission to take your time with this season. And remember, rest is a strategy. Scheduling in intentional rest will provide you with clarity in the midst of all the mayhem, if you will. It will help you to have more clarity and stillness with so many moving parts to your life. And it will also help you to set realistic milestones for yourself so that you're not just trying to do everything, but rest helps you to realize that I can just focus on one goal at a time. When you kind of reset yourself and you're realizing your capacity, you're realizing what's on your plate, you're giving yourself time to take a breather, that allows you to get back in the game with realistic understanding of where you are and where you have to go. And so I just want to encourage you today with that. I know we've been talking a lot about calling. We've been talking a lot about your kingdom mandate, and just being a woman who is called to more and a woman who wears so many different hats. I know it can be hard understanding how to manage it all. God didn't just call you into this season to leave you, okay? He's not going to leave you overwhelmed. Again, I say this so often. He equips those that He calls, okay? And so if you are feeling the weight of more, and you're feeling that overwhelm, that responsibility, and it's just weighing on you, when you know that this is that season where you have to move forward, I just want you to take a deep breath, okay? Inhale and exhale, okay? Because you don't have to do all of this alone. That's one of the things, too, that I want you to realize is that you're not in this by yourself. Start with one step, trust the Lord's timing, and remember that grace is always enough. You're not doing it in your own strength. You're doing it in the strength of the Lord. All right. So I hope that this episode blessed you. And as always, if this episode blessed you, let me know your takeaways in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. If you're looking for more tips as a multifaceted woman, and you're looking for tips to help you navigate all the different hats that you wear and all the different responsibilities that you have, go ahead and click the link in the description so that you can get added to my newsletter where I give tips for multifaceted women to help you manage your time and to help you break down that big vision into more manageable steps. Until next time, keep thriving and making an impact.